For attending. My name is Joe Coughlin. I direct the MIT Age Lab a full 2 blocks away, so this is the kind of commute that I enjoy for giving a talk. I want to give kind of a few opening remarks to set the stage. While we are all aware that aging, shall we say, is an issue, both personally and publicly, I'm not entirely sure that the way the real estate community or public policy has been thinking about aging is correct, in that we think there's going to be a lot more older people, and therefore we need a lot more of what we have always given them. And I'd like to suggest that, frankly, not only do we have more older people, but we have far different expectations of what we would like to do as we age. So first question, very much a US term. I've heard it in the UK as well, but class participation being 10% of your grade today, what are the 2 things we like to say we can depend upon in life?
Death and taxes.
Death and taxes, very good. Taxes, yes, apparently death, not so much. The reason why we are here today for this session is that we are not dying nearly at the rate we once did. In fact, the fastest growing part of the population worldwide is 85 plus, and in the year 2047, there will be more people over age 60 than there will be children 0 to 15. These are truly what I like to call disruptive demographics, and more than just numbers. Think about this, however. Half the children born today in the so-called rich world, many parts of Asia, most of Europe, and North America, will live 100 years. Ladies and gentlemen, this changes what we think is old age. This also changes how long we think we are going to be in what's called retirement years. Indeed, the social contract, not just for housing, but how we live, has to change. So if I can interject as we go through the panel today, while our focus today is on housing, I would suggest that that's probably about 25% of the aging challenge in front of us, maybe as little as 20% when it comes to real estate. Where we work, where we play, how we deliver care is going to be changed due to the fact that an aging population will be far more active. This child is said to possibly live to 142 years. I'll say if we live to 100 years, let's just celebrate that. But the biggest thing I want you to think about is that we are aging not just because we are living longer, but we are aging largely because we are not having children. As we know in China, the one-child, one-family policy has been somewhat relaxed. The numbers in the last 2 years are not rebounding at the rate the government thought. In the United States, fertility rates went from 3.9, the parents of the baby boomers. The baby boomers had 1.9. Gen X, the people born between 1964 and 79, 1.7. And the younger people, we're not even sure they're going to have children. And in fact, in Europe, we know they are not having children. In fact, so in that year 2047, we are seeing entire countries not having enough children to replace their growth rate overall. And in fact, I'll just end on a little joke here, but it's quite serious. In Denmark, they've actually done studies, I don't know who paid for this, but that people actually have more sex, if you will, outside of Denmark on vacation. So as a result, the government of Denmark is paying people to go on vacation, hopefully to come back with a child. It is so bad in Russia that they have Make a Patriot Day, that if you can demonstrate that you conceived in October, they will give you a refrigerator, a truck, or a discount on an apartment. But for the first time in history, although fertility rates have always dropped during war, during disease, for the first time in history, we are seeing fertility rates not rebound. And as a result, the challenge of an aging society is not just the housing, but how do you replace the oldest adult daughter? The services are as important, if not more important, than the structure that the people will be living in. Let's skip through this just very quickly. Sicily, southern Italy, southern Greece, Portugal, and the like, they are emptying out. Their fertility rates are roughly 1.4. You need 2.1 just to keep the population even. Italy is actually giving away villages, saying, please, just move in. Take the property, we'll give you a discount on taxes. Please just come in.
Do they get visa? If they yes, we'll go.
Exactly. They're coming short, but they don't have a visa. You know, I love the Germans. You know, I get a lot of research dollars from Germany. They're great innovators. And when the Germans see a problem, they create an innovation. In this case, they've created an anti-aging beer. But I think the thing to think about here, and this is the other part of it, as we think about an aging society with fewer children, we have an aging society of nations that are becoming mere shadows of what they once were. Germany is going to lose 10, 20 million of its population by mid-century, and what's left over will be far older. And we know China is very much the same. In fact, what to keep an eye on China's population is the median age. In terms of economics, 2050, we're looking at China, in 2012, median age of 35. But by 2050, we have an entire country in midlife crisis. But look at Europe, from 41 to 52. These are issues not just of housing. These are issues of fundamental economic productivity and talent and the like. Just to give you a benchmark of what these numbers look like, the entire population of the United States in 2050 is forecasted to be 400 million. There will be 430 plus million people in China over the age of 60. And this is the last slide you will remember the entire conference, because in Japan, they are now selling more adult diapers than they are baby diapers. And here's a country where the population is going roughly from 127 million to probably about 80 to 90 million, where 35% will be over age 60. Does anyone want to tell me what the immigration policy of Japan is in one word? No, you got it. The answer is just no. So as a result, you're seeing a lot more robotics because there's nobody that's going to be providing the services and the like. So let's end on the United States. One of these crazy baby boomers, perhaps the largest, loudest, most annoying generation in U.S. history, is turning 70 years old, one every 7 to 8 seconds. And for anyone who's ever been to Florida, the retirement capital of the United States, by 2025, the United States will have the demographic profile of the state of Florida. We can tell all kinds of older driver jokes after that. And I think this is the most important part, since we are at a real estate conference, to think about. This is not your mother's old age. We are not building societies, buildings, services, and the like for the older adults that we knew in the 60s and in the 70s. If you add up the 50 plus economic power around the world, they would be the third largest economy. Are there poor older adults? Absolutely. There are many of them. But this is a generation of people who don't just expect to live longer, they demand to live better. And in Europe, North America, and many parts of Asia, they have the economic power and, more importantly, the attitude to deliver. So if we're thinking that we're just going to build bigger, better, more stylish warehouses that our grandparents lived in, I'll ask you the following. Are you going to age the same way your parents and grandparents did? Do you have the same expectations? Then as you think about being a policy innovator, a real estate innovator, an investor, the question is, are you investing in what your parents wanted or what you will buy in the future? And if we're in the future, we live to 100 years old, at least it should be a high quality of life. So on that note, I'd like to introduce our panel. I'll pass the baton here. I'm not sure what the order was that we were going in. Devin, would you like to go first?
Sure.
Great. So look on the agenda. We have our panelists.
Right. I can't do slides because.
No, you should be able to advance that.
Right, but I think they're in your Fred's slides.
Stand up.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, the Fred's. I'm sorry, Fred.
Fred.
Oh, I didn't see it. Oh, I'm sorry. This is my last cartoon I just put in a little while ago. What if we change? What if we don't change anything at all, and so something magical happens? I suggest that we have a bigger challenge than doing nothing at all. Fred, I'm sorry. Please.
Okay. Yeah, I just go and pleased to see what you're talking about. Like, I'm Fred Wang from China. My title is Secretary General of China REITs Alliance. So my major focus is REITs, commercial real estate investment in China. But this time, originally we have the previous chairman, Madam Ye Meisheng, of China Real Estate Chamber of Commerce should come. But because of the work issues, she cannot come. So I'm representing Madam Ye to give a presentation on senior housing in China. Yes, sir. Yeah, just like Professor Joseph mentioned, like the statistics in China, this is from official statistics. So by end of 2012, population over 60 is around like 200 million, 15% of the total population. And it's reached 250 million by 2020, 400 million by 2025. So that will be higher than the population of US. Yeah, it will more than 400 million by 2050. So that's the numbers. China has done a lot of things with the old population increasing. Because we have the one-child policy for around like 30 years, something. Yeah. So now the population structure need to be changed. So the government released the one-child policy last year, and also the government done a lot of measures to help to encourage the investment in senior housing. And also with everybody knows like this year the destocking of the housing is quite important measures of the government. So this is the detailed policy. The most important one is this one. This is released by the State Council. It's released 2013. It's encouraged the investment in the senior housing service industry. So it will encourage not only the state-owned companies and also encourage the private sectors enter into this industry. This is just a chart showing like healthcare or senior housing in U.S. counting 11% of the total risk market capitalization. So it will be also important sectors in China commercial real estate investment. As you can see, the other professors also mentioned about the industries. Is also related to the whole real estate industry. From the 1998, people can, individual family can buy a house. Already 9.8 billion square meters have been built. The trend in China senior living is there will be more like community service provided, and that will cover majority of the aging population. And I already knows Alibaba, so offline, O2O, offline and online is also quite important to serve the community senior living. And another important factor is encouraging specialized senior care. Also, this means like originally we have more developers, but now we need more and more specialized operators for senior living, and also which means like we need the REITs or institutional money to hold the asset. A lot of life insurance have done senior housing in China. Because they have the long-term money, so they are important players in China. And Emeritus, Belmont Village and Wordmark also working in China. So Madam Ye is over 70 years old. So she referred to the Belmont Village business model, build a senior housing community called Tsinghua Friends Senior Community, which means like the Tsinghua graduated older people and the Tsinghua graduate students' parents, not Tsinghua, the older universities can join the senior community. And this is the project in Beijing, and also of Beijing, called Lundu Shuicheng. So within the one of the 5 buildings, there is a building 3 just for senior living. Yeah, this is a pilot test, and it will promote to other cities in China to help to solving the problems. And also it introduced like customer crowdfunding mechanism into the senior housing community of this project. Yeah. That's my presentation.
All right, so I'm Kevin Glover. I'm an architect by training. Don't hold that against me, please. And I've spent most of my career making the screen get dark. I spent most of my career working on senior housing since about 1979. In 1984, I had the privilege of getting together with John Erickson, who became a big developer of senior housing in the U.S. and had a very unique model, larger than most. And I'm going to use this as an example of kind of the product of Erickson for those 25 years. We did, all told, $2.5 billion worth of development, 22,000 units in 9 states, 18 communities like this. And the first one we did in Baltimore was actually a rather slow process. And we developed what I would say is a group of kind of rules or theories based on, I would say, social engineering. And one of the major components of our thinking was that social isolation is one of the biggest killers of seniors. And so everything we did at every level of detail is kind of social engineering designed to make the community more active. The other idea was we wanted to meet the middle class market in America. The idea was at the low end, there are government services, there are government programs. At the high end, people can do whatever they want. And the whole middle class had an ability to afford housing and services, but no product to turn to. So the scale of these communities is totally unique in the U.S. And I'd think the average retirement community in the U.S. is, say, 200, 230 units. On average, these communities were 1,500 units or larger. And as I said, we did 18 of them in 9 states. So there are several key ideas here. We divided things into neighborhoods. So a neighborhood is about 500 to 600 units, independent living, and a community building with services. And so this is a 3-neighborhood community, now that you know what neighborhoods are. And then there's a healthcare component. And I show you this. This is not an Erickson product. This is a new client. It's a new job. We got entitlement in Salt Lake City. And my firm, which is an offshoot of the people who work for me at Erickson, are now doing this community in terms of the architecture, the planning, entitlement, etc. So that's the product. Now the next important thing for me, I wanted to give you some images because I'm always shocked when I talk about retirement communities and everybody pictures the world's largest nursing home in the worst kind of Kafkaesque environment possible. And so hopefully this is not, this is an upgrade on your image of what a retirement community might be. And just to give you a couple things, this is in Virginia, this is in Denver, there's the clubhouse idea, there's a typical residential building, this one's in Houston. The facilities have an aquatic center, a multi-denominational chapel, auditorium, fitness center, many dining venues. That's one of the ideas in a large community. You can do things on a large scale, very professionally. And so all the services and things, the amenities are what I like to call downtown. So how does that relate to China? So somehow some people in China discovered us. We developed more and bigger than anybody else in the US. So of course, China wanted to talk to us. And their first reaction when we discussed what we did and how we did it was, why so few units? And why does it take you so long to build it? Typical community sold out in 5 years under good circumstances. And there's a great appetite and need for senior housing in China. So some of our first engagements were for insurance companies. I have a lot of non-disclosure agreements in my file, so I can't talk a lot about who the client is or what the site is, but you can see a lot of the ideas of the previous Erickson communities done on greenfield developments. I think these two are outside of
What's
Asia.
the plot ratio of this?
The what?
Plot ratio.
Density-wise, it's very suburban for China. It's very dense for the U.S. those represent 6, 7-story buildings. And so the community on the right here was 4,000 units. So you can just divide by 500 and you know how many neighborhoods there are, plus a big healthcare center, very challenging. The one on the left was not that large. I think it's only 2,000 units or something in that order. The previous session was about urban regeneration, and the typical campuses took 80 developable acres, and so I just wanted to show you some permutations of doing infill and products in the city. This is in Dalian. It was a 50-story building built on spec. It wasn't selling. We were asked if we could convert it to a retirement community, and we came up with a design they liked, which is stacking the idea of neighborhoods. The pink is community space. This was an Alcatel training center in Shanghai. We were asked if we could convert it to a retirement center. We said sure. So I just want you to see that the big ideas in the suburban model. And I'm going to end here with Shanghai. This was a 13-story existing building. It was originally built as office, and they tried to do condos in it, and then they came to us and said, can you make it a retirement community? And we did. And it's up and open. It's in Baoshan and in Shanghai. And it's got all the elements, 2 floors of community space, 2 floors of healthcare, and the rest of the floors, 9, are residential units. And with that, we'll hand it over.
Great, thanks, Kevin.
Does it work? Oh, that's, let me see. So first, I would like to say what's the situation and the tendency of China aging are issues that we need to know. So let's look at the histograms we call the China urban population pyramid in 2015. So which was the relative research from China National Ministry of Housing and Construction report. So according to this latest report and the relative analysis, we can figure out 4 obviously China aging tendency. First is the large number and high population, just as the formal lecturer has already told us, so I will not mention this. Second is the obvious trend of senility. The third is the getting old before getting well. That's a situation that's totally different from the U.S. Okay, and increasing empty nester means 1 child with 2 parents and 4 grandparents. So that's a big issue for China aging. So that's what is the meaning of getting older? What are the needs of individual agents? Actually, I think there are double aspects of individual agents, which one is the physiological decline, and the second is social life entropy. Actually, I was ever working for the master plan of Shanghai Planning Authority, so we try to lay out the aging place for the Shanghai issues. But at that time, I was thinking we do focus on the physical decline for people to play the aging facilities for them, but we do not pay attention to their social entropy, especially in China, that people have a traditional that to live with their parents, but things get changing, but the people do, even the parents do not want to live with the young guys, but they still want to live closer. So that's a big issue for China, because we feel that if we put with that the parents live in the suburb, there will be a big burden for us, because we would like to take a look at them frequently, and maybe they are not good. And if we live in very close, that would be much safer for us. And also that maybe they would like to take care of some of kids. That will be a very good thing for both of us. So that's the big issues for us, and that's so today when people talk about pension facility, most of them are paying their attention to physiological decline, but social life entropy is actually the big issues that is even more relative to the happiness of aging. So Dr. Yao Dong set up a diamond model of different aspects of different needs according to his long-term research on aging in China. So you can see, okay, so health promotion, medical management, chronic disease management, accident prevention, recovery from surgery, the mental and disabled. So that's a different level for the people's needs, and actually they do a great issues that generation conflicts, age restriction, and age segregation, and there's a lot of issues. So according to the relative analysis, we could conclude the needs of aging space into three different aspects. One is nursing care for disabled and dementia is the most urgent but minority request among the amount of aging. Another one is healthy and mobile status by preventing disability and accidents is the general desire for the aging. And another is social ability by overcoming social life entropy is the universal needs of all. So the spirits, or the spirit needs, or the people, the happiness of the feeling was the key points for people, for aging people. And here is the, what's wrong? Okay.
Read that.
All right. So here's the historic histogram shows that Shanghai elderly willing to aging in place in 10 years for 1998 to 2008. Okay, so okay, I will speak it very quickly. So when you look at this pictures, you will find that, generally speaking, 10 years away, revealed most of the Shanghai elder prefer to age in place even when they are 80 years old. So that's very important. So plug aging space into community will be a very good strategy that when we saw the problem, or I think community-based serious facility compound will be an innovation for the aging place. So, okay, so this is a suggestion for communities, for community-based communities, but it can be a new community, or we can build it in a community which has already existed. I think that's very important thing, because the old people get used to their own community. Maybe that's a very good solution for them. And the last piece is that actually we already have a pilot example, which was Wang Ke, a developer. He changed the original club, the community club, to a pension club. I think that makes people work together. So it's a very good example, I think, can work well. Thank you.
If everyone can join us up here, we'll have some questions and hopefully some questions for the audience as well. I found the data on the desire by older Chinese people to age in their own home, even when their activities of daily living begin to decline, remarkably similar to the U.S. population as well. The vast majority, regardless of their capability, would prefer to be in their own home if they had a choice. The question is whether can we create a more alluring place to live that would be attractive, perhaps both to investors and people there. I think there are some examples of that. I'm going to ask the first question, and then we'll throw it to the audience just to get everybody primed up, which is, given the speed of aging in China, the United States, and Europe, do you think we can build capacity fast enough to be able to meet the needs? Fred? Yeah. Okay.
I think I just added several slides, more than 5. So I show a slide like in the past 20 years, China built 9.7 billion square meters, which means 7 square meters for each person for 1.3 billion population. So there is quite many housing already in China, just like Kevin's projects and also Madam Ma mentioned. There's enough like living space in China. The most important thing is still like provide the proper service. So the housing is already there. Just need to switch the functions to provide the service to serve those people. I think that's more challenging. But you can see quite many business models are already in China. We have they call it like light asset management, like O2O, to provide the service delivered to home. So basically, the nursing people, they can come to your home to serve you. So that will be a quite important service. And another is institutional, like the insurance company, they are building, they put a lot of money building the new facilities to meet the higher standard, China Life, Taikang Life, all those kind of companies. Yeah, and also we have many senior living operators now, like Huichen or Chuncao Zhuhui, those kind of companies. Also like the foreign companies like Emeritus, those kind of things. But I mean, really, it need to tailor Chinese model to, because Chinese don't have those kind of insurance money, individual insurance to help them to pay for the senior housing rent. So we need to figure out those kind of systems. Yes. Yeah.
Kevin, do you think?
Well, so I think of senior housing, if you can be generic at all, as service-enriched housing. And so in the U.S., it's a different problem because there's so much spread out suburbia. You know, aging in place in terms of aging in your own home, I don't think works. So in the U.S., we have a big problem of offering people other product types within their community. My research shows that people really don't necessarily want to age in their own home, but they want to age in their community and keep their services and their friends and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the U.S. I think in China, so much of the housing is apartment-style housing, and buildings tend to get occupied in a similar time frame and age in place, if you will, on their own. I think it will be easier to bring services. And I think that's what you're saying, right?
Transition.
Right, and so the trick will be to bring in services. I think the more challenging part is the social interaction part. You know, when I see Japan, a robot's going to take care of you. I don't think that's going to be social interaction, no matter how good that robot is. So, I guess that's
robots are terrible conversationalists.
right.
At least for now. Lynn, do you think we'll make it in time? And if we build it, will they come?
I think we actually a lot of developer has paid much attention to the pension facilities. So I think we should be really what we should think is that what the agent really needs. So is that good? Is that really something that would build a totally, I think, an area for the whole aging? It seems it's not doesn't make sense. But maybe it's just like advertisement for the real estate. So it means that it can give it some services. That'll be good. But for home mission, because there's a good cases because my dad is almost 80 years old, and he's thinking of such kind of thing. So he would like to stay near with the same community, but he don't want to live with us, and need some services. So that make me think deeply what the real China need. Maybe live in a community or move to a community before they are getting too old, and have people live together with young people, with kids. That's good. Not live in an aging community. I don't think not a good choice.
I also think there are different estimates on how much of the older population will have dementia and cognitive issues, but that's a huge problem. In my experience, you can't maintain people in an individual apartment under those circumstances. It takes specialized care and a different environment. So if you just do the math of that, it's
and
fairly
more expensive services to go along with it too.
Right. And aggregating services is the only way to deliver services economically. So that's an overlay to the whole discussion.
You know, I'll save the question in case we run dry, but one of the things we did not talk about, I did not at the beginning, and neither did our three panelists, but we did not dictate or define, rather, what an aging society is. Are we building for 65-year-olds, 75-year-olds, 85-year-olds? It's very unclear, and the diversity of health and well-being within the 60-plus is far more diverse, frankly, than even the much younger population. Mm-hmm. On that note, I did see a question. Did you have a question? Yes, please.
Yeah, actually, because China and Japan, China cannot follow Japan's aging population cuts. So I'm curious about what happened in Japan when they reached the aging population, and did they build a lot of aging communities and aging housing, or did they, like their seniors, get old in their own house, but with a lot of like robotic and road assistant and waiter in home? What happened in Japan? Because the culture are so similar.
Most of the retirement communities I've seen in Japan, and this is anecdotal because I haven't done an exhaustive survey, have been pretty high-end, expensive facilities. So it's a great question as to what happens to the rest of the population. There are some great examples of very nice hotel-like facilities in Japan, but I don't know if you move down the economic scale.
And the other thing to think about too is that Japan in particular, but Singapore is also doing this, the amount of technology being developed to extend your ability to age in place in your own home is moving very quickly and becoming more affordable. Now there may come a point, and I say may, that where you have to go into what we currently say as define as senior housing. But it is not by any stretch of the imagination, just because you reach a certain age, you will go to senior housing. Even in the United States, the population going into senior housing is 3 to 4%. And the average age of people going into senior housing has gone up nearly 10 years in the last 20 years. So the average person going to senior housing today is an 83 or 84-year-old, where I was much younger before. So it's not, just because the demography is older does not dictate that this is going to be a definitive need with a defined number.
I'd like to add that I've concluded from these 2 days of this conference that it's also going to be very hard to get adequate funds to flow into this because it's so segmented and it's so complicated. We heard a lot of the big money guys talking about big projects, and I think this is going to require a whole lot of little projects, and that's a whole different problem.
I think what Lynn said about your own dad, I think that's a good example of smaller communities that are near your own community or family. I mean, I hate to keep using a U.S. example with a global audience, but the number one criteria for how you choose a senior housing property to put your parents in is yes, quality, yes, cost, but is it within 15 miles of where you live? And so we cannot make these huge properties that are 20 miles by 10 miles wide and think that everybody's going to move there.
So I totally agree with that. So I think transition of the old community or old buildings that to be a pilot, to be a community, aging community, that's give very good services for aging services. That will be a good, and we can make it to be a chain business and like apply to plug in each community. That will be a good.
That'd be a good one.
So one thing I think about for China a lot is the environmental issues. I was taken down to Hainan Island, and we were standing in a pineapple field, and they were telling me, oh, people are going to flock to live here in a big retirement community because of the clean air, clean water. I'm not Chinese, I don't know if that's true or not, but it's certainly a total different paradigm than in the U.S.
It just also depends on how do you define the aging population. Like if it's active old people, you can fly to Hainan, yeah. But for those kind of need like those kind of take care of people, it's really you need to solve locally. So I mean, depends on how do you define this. But I mean, really in China originally we have a very young population percentage, so we didn't pay a lot of attention on this. Like we need, normally in Beijing, people need to wait at least 5 years to waiting in line to go to the public senior housing project. Yeah, so I think the whole industry, that's the government encourage the private money into these sectors to solve this problem, because originally too much depends on the government, and the government cannot provide those kind of service.
And the reason why I showed the fertility numbers earlier is that this is fundamentally different around the world. We've always had older people, but we've always had relatively large families to provide the care. And so really, we're not just building houses. Around the world, the number one caregiver tends to be the oldest adult daughter. We're not building housing. We're trying to replace the family member that was never born or lives now far away or is too busy. And that's more than just architecture and investment. Yes, sir.
Question for
Here, take mine. You.
question for Kevin and Professor Wang. For the aging community in China and the U.S., I don't know what the U.S. is thinking here. Do you think those community operators or should be organization for non-profit or for profit? This question. First question. Second question is due to the insurance issues in China, which is each state or which province have their own insurance policy, and so far it's not countrywide connected. So when we provide the aging communities, do we need to formalize the countrywide insurance policy?
Yeah, a little bit of that. Actually, on the insurance side, and it's because I read a term paper written by a very great young lady who graduated last year from the program. I think the insurance issue, her conclusion was it has to be normalized across the country to equalize the situation. I believe that's probably a correct response for China. In terms of nonprofit or for-profit, I still think there are a lot of people who can pay for services, and politics aside, I think people who can pay for services ought to pay for services. And then people who need assistance hopefully can be given assistance. I don't know if that's a strong political statement or not. I'll say it anyway.
Guilty adult children go a long way in terms of how much they're willing to pay.
As my point will that I think that the central government of China has began to pay larger attention to that issue, so that they have already realized that the aging issues will be a very key issues for the whole nation. So actually, as I know that in Shanghai, that each community will launch aging facilities, for the area. So that's we need to think of the strategy. There should be non-profit or just government put money on it, or we can set a platform and have the non-profit, non-organization and even developer work together. I think that will be a good thing that I think sustainable for the economic will be will make sense. If only the government pay money to that, that will be a big issue. So I think it depends, because for the low income agents, that government need to pay for that, and for the good services that Calvin had designed, that the developer, I think, can cooperate with the government to do something that both good for the community and for the developer. I think it could keep a balance. So we should find the most important thing. I think we need to find a strategy, not only just put money from the government, but also to stimulate the just like the developer and other non-profit organization to work together. I think that's makes sense.
Question?
Okay, thank you. My name is Sebastian Lee, student year 2008. I'm very interested to see Kevin. It's my first time to see vertical senior housing in a single box in a big building. I want to ask Professor Wang, how would you comment on that? When you do vertical senior housing, different floor, not medical floor, how would you feel that way? Because Americans actually run our sample senior housing facilities. So I want to know how would you feel when you have a facility in China? Thank you.
What? You want?
No.
Well, my experience in the building in Shanghai, in Baoshan, we did actually fairly state-of-the-art healthcare on the floor on the floor plate of that building. We call it the household model. It's based on the greenhouse model, and we had 2 floors of healthcare designed in that. In the 50-story model, even with a brutal structure for a building that tall, we managed to infill spaces and create the healthcare. So, I think applying the rules and then a lot of creativity, I think there's a lot of room for a lot of different solutions. I don't know if that answers your question. So.
Kevin, I totally agree with you. Actually, I really like that building. I think it's not a high-rise building or low-rise. Doesn't matter, because if you low-rise but with no elevator, that will be a problem. So it's about the quality. So if we give a good quality for services, that's we can make it anywhere, and we can transfer abandoned factory into such kind of thing. So anything we can do is that we make it be a good quality for aging people. That's right.
MIT, follow-up question, please.
Actually, I personally feel that's very good for urban infill when you do senior housing. Also, based on Professor Wang's idea, you do community service. People that could be a condo for sale. Just need to be run like a American senior housing for very long. So that's why I like it. It's very urban infill prototype, but I haven't seen that a lot in China. So that's
Do you need to make some adjustment on the elevators? Especially if you only active orders, it's fine. But for assisted living, you need to make a lot of changes on the elevators. That's a little bit challenging, right?
We actually wrote a little scenario of how the elevators behaved in the 50-story model. So at meal times, certain elevators report to certain floors and only service their neighborhood. And we could greatly increase the ability to service in the high-rise.
I mean, you need to have bigger elevators, right?
ideally, if you,
Yeah, yeah.
if you were
Wheelchair
starting,
Yeah.
starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that we've come to an end of our time. Is there any closing remarks that any of you'd like to give both to the policy community, the investment community, and to the senior housing community? Lynn, do you have any thoughts?
I'm saying build, plunge the aging place in community and give the better services for the aging people is the key points to put forward. Is that right?
Sounds good. Kevin?
A key issue we didn't discuss is the lack of trained experts in the subject of caring for older people at all levels. And I actually talked to a developer yesterday who may actually hire us. He's from China, and he's leading by working with the government to create good regulations to make sure the industry is well regulated and good quality. And he's also starting a school to train management and worker level people because there aren't those people in China right now.
Great.
Yeah, just following Kevin's comments, really in China, we still have very large percentage of young people. Just we need to introduce the system to train the people to help these systems. With the investment, the exports slowing down in China, government is more focusing on investment, consumption and the service. I mean, this industry will mean there are more and more opportunities.
Yeah, I think we need to think largely in a systems or a contextual point of view, so we have the facilities, but I think the people, the processes and techniques of providing care. There's something else we didn't think about. If you have a 52-story or a several thousand capacity facility, think about the transportation infrastructure, the emergency services and the like that would have to be built around in many of these facilities that we have not even begun to think about. On that note, I'd like to please join me in thanking our panelists and thank all of you.